Hello and welcome to An Evening with Comrades. Tonight we will be starting off talking about the Vis Idiocy that was on display in Australia with the Yellow Vest Uprising, although I think we've got something a little more juicy later on. But tonight we have with us big guy Liam. Say hello. Jesus. We also have with us Cole. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Cole. Welcome, Cole.
Dip dap time.
Dip Dap. We also have with us Pulsatus Pac-Man.
How about democratic socialism with thermonuclear tendencies?
We have the Red Mushroom.
Pleased to be here.
We have Eugene.
Everybody, hi.
And I'll be your host, TK Jones. So, lads, how are we?
Not bad.
It's 1 a.m. and I have a pot of coffee, so all right.
Jesus Christ, 1 a.m. I did try to move the beginning of this live stream from 4 to 6, and I apologize for not letting everybody know more than I should have. But well, here we are. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you to everyone for joining us in the chat as well. We'll try to answer your questions there. But yeah, so I believe it was yesterday there was an attempted uprising by a few people. I say a few because there was a handful of people. First spotted in Perth, wearing yellow high-vis vests, blockading both an empty and locked Western Australian State Parliament building. They were trying to block the entrance. And then later on, on the East Coast in Canberra, I know for sure, and then I think Melbourne and Sydney as well, there was more yellow vest protests. And I'm sorry to say, guys, in Perth, the Proud Boys were amongst the yellow vesties. And then, yep. And then in, I think it was Melbourne, I saw a rumor that Neil Erickson was there with a high-vis vest.
Yes, he was. Luckily, the protest against the violence against women took over, and they eventually did a solidarity sitting on the footsteps of Parliament, which ended up being about 300 people, and they filled up a tram with flowers, and it was pretty sad but pretty beautiful. Yeah. So that's what came out of the yellow vests in Melbourne.
Why is it whenever the yellow vest movement is imported from France, it suddenly switches to this right-wing hyper-nationalist campaign? Why does that happen?
Australia, to be blunt.
Well, the similar thing happened in the UK, by the way, so that's the weird part.
Well, the Anglosphere, I guess. I think it's
Yeah, Anglo-Saxons can't do anything. That's it. You can't do anything right.
Well, yeah, I suppose, but even so, I think my political science lecturer when I was in high school described it. He says that Australia, for all of its efforts and all of its pro-union culture, unfortunately is inherently conservative in pretty much all of its social issues. Whenever you get the yellow vest, because a lot of the yellow vest movements in Europe were based on anti-immigration policy. Whenever you mix anti-immigration rhetoric with anyone besides Australia, there's almost like this, oh, look, we're not the only ones kind of mentality. Like, aha, now we have something that justifies our reprehensible, racist, xenophobic position.
All right. So the yellow vests are coming, like it's spreading to Alabama because next month they're coming to fucking Montgomery.
Oh boy.
On behalf of the right or the left?
The left.
Good.
That's interesting.
Well, we'll see about that, because those sort of things, I could imagine easily Proud Boys being dressed in like high visibility vests and like shouting. That would work perfectly for them. And actually,
The organizer has
I'm
stated
literally
that-
giving. I'm sorry. It's a great advice for the right wingers to completely destroy this movement is to literally do whatever they're doing, but dressed in yellow vests. Just imagine what would happen. Just like Proud Boys showing up at the fucking anti-abortion, pro-abortion, pro-choice events in yellow vests and just shouting. This is going to be disgusting, and I think all of those things they can easily fall apart because why are they wearing yellow vests in Britain or in Australia or in America? Why?
I have no idea. I think they're just
In
trying
France,
to...
it makes sense.
Yeah,
They're
isn't
just
it?
trying to emulate the aesthetic, completely ripping
Okay.
it apart from the original thing, right?
They're picking
Okay.
up the wrong parts of the movement.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
and that's why it's going to be convoluted, in my opinion, and be like derailed easily.
the organizers where I live are calling for better public transportation, sewage systems, stronger union protections for fixing LGBT laws, helping the drug epidemic, Medicaid and Social Security, and to be against police brutality, and also, and I quote, this is against capitalism. This is against the rise of fascism, and that's the organizer speaking.
No, that's good. But again, by importing movements, you always risk to lose a lot of
Yeah, obviously,
what
but I mean, for Alabama, that's pretty good.
Well, maybe because like to have such a conservative state even mention something anti-capitalism and have an event that is connected to that, I think is great.
Hmm.
And like, how much of a comrades are they really? Because they could be saying, "Oh, it's against capitalism. We want a little less capitalism, if that's all right." Or are they saying, "No, we want to tear down the bourgeoisie and establish local Soviets"? Or is it the whole, socialism like in Denmark?
If I
Are there
go to
organizers involved with anyone else?
Yeah, that's
the organizer is a communist.
Okay, good.
Is the CPUSA communist though? Because
There are some CPUSA communists that are good.
some of them that aren't actually FBI plants.
Yes,
I
some
assume.
of them are police. Yes, some of them are good.
That's good.
Well, he's not a Russophile to begin with.
It's terrible. You shouldn't go.
So he's not a Russophile.
You shouldn't go.
Should not go.
Yes, you shouldn't go to this event. You should blacklist this person. Being Russophile is anti-imperialism, and I tell that as a person suffering under Russian imperialism. So
when should you abandon something like this? When should you, like, when someone says, "Oh, we're going to have a protest and we're going to it's going to be organized here, we're going to do this." At what point is there too many red flags and you should say, "Let's not go to this thing," because they don't get it?
if the issue becomes really weird and convoluted, in my opinion, like when you have your issue, right, that you stand for, like a good example is the strategy of the radical left in Russia at the anti-corruption protests. It's a very interesting thing. Basically, there was a giant wave of anti-corruption protests, right, in Russia. They were not really led by anyone, but they had a nominal leader who's which is Navalny, who's a big anti-corruption guy in Russia, a liberal, hard liberal, and the whole shenanigans were very, very liberal. But communists were like, well, we do support what those guys are talking about. We are anti-corruption. We are anti-Putin. We are anti-United Russia Party. And what they're doing. So we have to do something. So their basic strategy was, remember that all of this shit could be basically FBI, FSB in the case of Russia, and we should be worried that like we shouldn't join their ranks or whatever. But it will be great to show up with under our flags, under our on our terms, right? Because we stand for the same thing, and we should be there, agitating, talking to people, and expressing our political support for this issue, not for the movement or for Navalny or whatever. So they said, stand your ground, don't compromise, and we are there under our flags, under our terms. So you show up with a flag of your movement, or you just go there understanding that you're not joining the leaders of this thingy, but you're there because for all your purposes, right? If you're with someone, if you have a some sort of org, right? You're there as the org. You're there not endorsing the issue. You're not endorsing the movement, basically. But if it sort of becomes convoluted, you just abandon the ship, go, because it's risky by then.
I was going to say, my understanding, this is what they had to do in France as well. They had to intercede in what was happening and then push it to the left, lest the right win, over the Yellow Vest movement, because it was leaderless. This is what.
I spoke to Gladys, and Gladys is saying it's a very sort of the left and the right, the center left and the center right are sort of uniting against Macron, but the far left are trying to keep the far right out of it, so that they don't co-opt the movement. So
because it's really happening a lot. It's really one of the strategies of the far right. One thing that people really misunderstand about fascism is that fascism is populist, but fascism doesn't need majority support. That's the weird part. Like Mussolini and Hitler didn't have majority in their respective countries, and this co-opting of movements, and all of a sudden, like guys in fucking brown show up, and like, hey guys, how about we destroy all the impure? And it's like you just blink, and all of a sudden this is a fascist rally. So this is one of their basic tactics: is co-opting legitimate movements that already exist, especially left wing. That's where all the left-wing aesthetic and propaganda comes from in the fascist movements. This is where National Socialism comes from. It's just to co-opt the same shit. So the thing that's happening in France is very, very logical, in my opinion, that you said, TK, that Glutix told you, because that's one of the things that the fascists do. They do that sort of thing, just like show up and hijack the movement. And we shouldn't allow that. We should be very cautious.
Is that sort of what we might be seeing with the Yellow Vests in Australia then?
Yes. My God. Yellow Vest everywhere. Any big movement, any big popular movement. What's so great about Yellow Vest is that it's a very popular movement in Europe that is not based on anti-immigration, right? So what does it mean for anti-immigration folks? Hey, we should make it about immigration. We should make it about Muslims. We should make it about the Jews.
So how could this Alabama Yellow Vest movement maintain it and keep it to be a leftist thing and not let it be co-opted by the right?
Change it.
Left wing.
Change it. Don't make it a Yellow Vest movement. Make it something else.
Well, it doesn't really matter, because Yellow Vests, it's not really. It won't really change that much, will it?
Well, it will, because the right already sees the Yellow Vest movement as co-optable. They understand that, it's a popular movement. Look, we can move in, and we can blend in with the normies, and we can take their movement away from them. If you change it to something else, they won't understand what it is.
Every movement will be co-optable by the right. everything.
It's just not letting them do it. It's having the
But what
resolve to
socialism
not
was
let them.
co-opted? What socialism got co-opted? Like, what the fuck?
Okay, so here's the thing.
Socialism.
I genuinely believe that for people in Alabama, especially communists, and even like rad libs, essentially, they should have to read The Hammer and Hoe. It's a very important book for being here. It's written by someone I really want to get on the show, named Dr. Robin Kelly, and he wrote the book about communists in Alabama in the 1930s, and it is a fucking beast.
Oh, fucking beast!
It's so good. It's such a good book. It talks about how communists organized during the Great Depression in Alabama, and how in Alabama the most commonly communist people were obviously minorities, and B, white farmers.
Hashtag South Africa. Hashtag safe.
Small white
farmers.
farmers in the northern counties.
Mm.
Fucking Elmore County had more votes for the Communist Party in the 1930s than the fucking one that won the presidency.
Jesus.
Oh god.
Like they had like double the votes for the fucking Communist Party over Herbert Hoover. So I mean, like the communists in Alabama actually had something, and then they got lynched. Or thrown in prison, or chased out of town, or got.
It does seem like as soon as leftist campaigns gain any traction, any sort of big support, the reaction against them becomes more and more violent as well.
Yep. Some guy who came to America from Lithuania, who came to Alabama, got ran out of multiple towns, and his name was Berlin Israel, and he was a Lithuanian Jew in the 1930s, living in Alabama.
Jesus Christ.
Berlin Israel, the Lithuanian Jew living in Alabama and then Atlanta, and then got kicked out of Atlanta, and then went to Rome in Georgia, and then got kicked out of there.
Terrible.
But not really surprising.
His name is funny to me though.
So if in Australia the Yellow Vest movement has already been co-opted by right wingers, is there any way to like take it back or fight against it, or should we just leave it alone and leave it to rot and die?
Calf can get in on it if they want to do something.
No.
Calf gotta get in on everything.
Or re-co-opt it. Or just re-co-opt it.
Yeah, like we shouldn't allow the co-option in the first place.
If the right can co-opt something, the left can co-opt it back.
I agree.
So before it becomes too ingrained in Australia that, Yellow Vest means you're right wing, we should be out there with red flags and Eureka flags.
Guys?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
News, pretty dire news that's just came in that I found. Victoria Police have conducted raids on human rights and environmental activists.
Yes.
God, what the?
This was on. I don't know if you're familiar, Liam, with LASNet's Facebook page, Latin American Solidarity Network. Some of their activists had their homes raided for protesting against one of our oil magnates here in Australia.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I mean, the raids were in Victoria, in Melbourne.
Yeah,
these people's homes were raided.
That's
so how fresh is this news?
It was just posted in Anarchists in Melbourne.
Jesus.
Just
so as we were going live, this was
what's happening.
It looks like Victorian police have raided the houses and offices of people who are human rights and environmental activists. Let me just read further into this article here.
Jesus Christ!
Oh God, this is pretty bad.
I know I'm in early right now, but I'm gonna head out.
You're off?
Yeah.
That's cool, man. Thanks
All right.
for coming on. It's good to
Yeah,
have
Thanks
you.
for coming.
Yep.
Bye.
So,
Yeah, so yeah, like you said, the Lasnet, Flack, and MRAG have been denounced. Have been denounced by Victoria Police. They've been surveilled, harassed, and some of them have been arrested. For what it looks like.
fucking Christ.
But
and it looks
Is that after some sort of protest? There was
Well,
a protest?
Lasnet had
part of-
organized an event, a picket in front of like an office of one of these oil companies, which is performing like basically human rights violations in possibly Brazil. I don't know. I forget where. I want to.
and it looks like Lasnet had organized with Victorian people to do a simultaneous protest. But the Victorian people never got around to it because they all got their homes raided, they had phones taken away, computers.
Shit.
All their anti stuff has been taken. It looks like it looks like they were raided just on Friday, but the news of the raids only came out about 10 or so hours ago.
Oh shit!
So yeah,
I guess they had no communications. Oh god, this is awful.
yeah, and it looks like
Protest
it looks
legal?
like
Is the police is doing?
What was that, Eugene? You cut out.
it looks like
I ask, is it even legal? Like, I know it's unjust, 100%.
Yeah,
How could it be legal? How? What have they done? They've done like.
Was the protest organized legally?
yes,
I don't-
it was.
It must.
Then
They
this
must
is
be.
completely unjust and unlawful.
Yeah, they must be trying to get them with anything that'll
They're
stick.
trying to intimidate. Yeah, basically that's what they are
Yeah,
doing. That's
it's
why
intimidation.
that's why they've seized phones and computers and all that. Is because they're trying to find anything to
Incriminate
hook them with.
people.
Anything they can find. Yeah.
So they get.
They do it here.
So they get raided for like the flimsiest of reasons, and then they'll find like illegally downloaded movies on their phone, and then they get charged with that.
Yes.
I know it's
basically.
story.
That's what they'll do.
Sorry. I had a funny story on this similar topic. We had a Belarusian anarchist, a guy who lives, I think, a couple of blocks away from me, or something like that, from what I know. And he's like rather famous in the radical circles. He's a blogger, and he writes a lot about anarchism and like Belarus and Russia or whatever. He's pretty cool, and he was arrested outside of his house and was charged with spreading Nazi propaganda, extremist Nazi propaganda. We've recently got a law in place that specifically bans Nazi propaganda, not just radical propaganda, right? Like, for example, having swastikas everywhere used to mean extremism, right? Extremism. Now it means also Nazi propaganda. And it's illegal, which is great, and I support that. But a guy, an anarchist, was arrested for spreading Nazi propaganda. You know why? Which is fucking amazing. They found a person was sitting at work, like a police officer was sitting and scrolling through his Facebook page and found a picture which is 4-year-old. 3 pictures. 2 of them were mocking Nazism and had Nazi symbolism there, right? And they were making fun of Nazis, making them look stupid, basically memes. And the third one was a picture from an article that he published, right? A legitimate article, where there was a picture of hammer and sickle and swastika, and the article written by this anarchist was about how we shouldn't equate Nazism and communism and why it is wrong and dangerous. So, and he was charged for spreading Nazi propaganda, and he lost, and he had to pay a fine.
What the shit?
And that's not a very precedent where context doesn't matter. He was fucking found guilty because they wanted to scare him. They wanted to press charges, and intimidate him. And the only way they found how is to charge an anarchist, an anti-fascist, with Nazi propaganda spreading.
So this
That's what they did.
So this sort of bullshit thing that they pulled with this anarchist is similar to what's going on.
Yeah, very similar. And they do this all the time in Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. When you're like a car just shows up and you're arrested, your phone is removed, your PC is taken away, your your head is put down between your legs, and they drive you to somewhere, and then you're all of a sudden in the office, and there's a KGB officer in front of you questioning you about your political alignments. Like, it's fucking insane. And and they just do that sort of shit to stop you from basically questioning the status quo.
How heavy is, like, apart from that, how heavy is the repression of leftists in Russia and Belarus?
In Russia, it's rather fucked. There are cases of human rights violations and using electricity to get basically people accepting that they're fucking terrorists or whatever, right? And it's really fucked. And I recommend you look deeper into what's happening with political prisoners in Russia. In Belarus, it's also fucked, but on a lesser scale, because government is aware if they push it too hard, there will be people will respond very negatively, right? But I could say that because we don't really have a leftist movement that is big enough on the Marxist side, especially, right? Marxists not prosecuted at all. At least I haven't heard of any Marxists who are in prison or arrested or whatever. But I have seen legitimate communists. Legitimate communists are in prison and are harassed. Mostly anarchists. Many anarchist groups are harassed by the government, and they're considered communists, and whatever. They do a lot of I can't really comment on their work, on the work of different groups. They do a lot of journalism. They do graffiti. They do stickers. They do a bunch of things.
That's why.
Yeah, but they're mostly harassed, as I explained, not for that, but for the content of their politics. Despite the fact that it's so funny that an anarchist pamphlet that demands abolition of a state and says that our government is unjust and unlawful and should be abolished is considered basically terrorism in some regard, right? While we still have Kropotkin Street in Minsk. We have a street named after a guy they made the whole fucking thing about. But it doesn't bother anyone because this is the beauty of an ability to have a cake and eat it too, to have Lenin Street and then claim that and have a communist party that says that they will build communism by abiding the constitution of Belarus. Which guarantees private property rights and guarantees sovereignty of the state and the parliamentary politics, stuff like that. It's this is the level of politics we're talking about here, and I think it's really fucking insane.
I'm starting to think we have a similar sort of thing in Australia where it says Australia is a democracy. You're allowed to have free speech and whatnot. You can protest in the streets just as long as you got a permit. And then I hear that a bunch of activists had their homes raided and their phones and computers stolen from them. I'm like, maybe we're not all that democratic. Maybe we're more like, what's going on in Belarus. Maybe we're not so different.
We are. About the scale. It's about the scale of the budget. How much money does the charade really have, and how much they can afford to put up? The charade.
I think kind of a hard thing to say, but I think Australians are a lot more belligerent. I think that's the only reason why they don't push it as far as they wish they could. because Australians are pretty fucking belligerent. Australians will kick up a fuss over the tiniest shit. Like, the reason why Australian politics is such a joke is because everyone's lost so much faith in the system, nobody gives a shit anymore. But if there is stuff that they actually give a shit about, Australians raise absolute merry fucking hell. And I think that our government is actually genuinely worried about that.
But we get like really, really mad about our cricket team doing badly, or
oh yeah,
someone
we fucking lose our shit.
Yeah, or like if like what's a good example? Shapes changed their flavor, and we kicked up a stink.
Yeah,
and then they changed it back. Yet when women are dying from domestic abuse in Australia every day, nothing. Well, not much. Well, not much media coverage of it. Or when people are trying to stop Adani from destroying the Great Barrier Reef, it's harder to get people out of their homes and into the streets to be angry about it, and then it's even harder to get the media to report on it.
It's hard to get people to attend a rally in solidarity with our indigenous peoples.
Yeah, the people. Yeah, like God, just Jesus Christ, Australians. Let's just get rid of them, deport them somewhere.
Well, this is the weird part that I mentioned a couple of months ago, I think. I was talking to a guy who had just had their enterprise agreement cancelled. He worked in an oil and gas company in WA.
Mm-hmm.
They had their enterprise agreement cancelled, right? We're talking about all of BP's refining sites in WA, like all 7 of them.
Jesus.
Plus fucking. Now we're talking over 1,000 people, if not more, like the entire workforce on the picket line, demanding that the EBA be rectified and be renewed, and job security, and of course a pay rise, etc.
So were they outsourcing? Was the company outsourcing its labor?
Pretty much, they were going to shut it down and
Yeah.
automate most of it, and if they weren't going to automate it, they would like export it or sell off the assets to another company, which would import labor, etc. Standard shit that multinationals do. And so these guys are out on the picket line. We're talking thousands of people, several oil sites. First I heard of it was that guy telling me. Think about that. Like a gigantic industrial action that was going on. The guy told me had gone on for over 2 months, and I had not heard a peep about it.
Do you think it would have been at least on the ABC? I mean, that's sub-decent media at best, but everything else is owned by Rupert Murdoch, so, I'm not surprised.
And this is the thing. Like, no one spoke about it. No one talked.
Well, you've got the ABC that are supposed to be like non-biased and whatnot, but because they gotta get their paycheck from the government, they gotta not like hang shit on the government that's giving them their paycheck.
Yeah, it's a similar thing that I've heard when I first learned about BBC, and I'm like, oh, they are supposed to be the unbiased news that are objective because they are paid by the government, and I'm like, wait a second. So you're saying that they get paid by the government, but that means they're biased to the government, right? No, it means they're paid to be objective. Sure, mate.
Funny thing about the BBC is that for practically all of the 20th century, it was under the direct control of the Secret Service in the United Kingdom.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
in all fairness, this may be my Anglo coming out, but in all fairness, I still, like, if I do watch mainstream news, I do watch BBC World News because I'm like, what are the alternatives? Fox or Russia Today? Yeah, CNN, the ABC.
Yeah, to be honest, this is also, if I need some news, I usually direct my eyes toward BBC. But yeah, having I don't think that having Secret Service being involved in management is so important, because maybe they just had good editors in there, and they just provided some help, to run the place. It's not a big deal.
No.
Yeah, whatever. It's just don't tell it to anyone. Don't. We'll find you.
Although, to be
The
honest,
problem is.
We know you live.
Oh, sorry. With any media, it's just like it'll present the hegemonic ideas anyway. The Secret Service doesn't even need always to directly intervene to get what they want.
How do you call that? The manufacturing consent. Noam Chomsky.
Yes.
Yeah, he explained the mechanisms of that very clearly, because it's all a big machine that's just perpetuates itself.
I mean, you got to sort of think about it though. Like, I mean, SBS wasn't too bad. I mean,
I remember when I was younger when SBS didn't have ads.
yeah, don't you remember?
And like I loved watching shows on SBS and ABC because there was no ads and you could watch the whole thing. And then I was watching something on SBS and the ads come on. I'm like, fuck watching SBS ever again. Fuck it. That's it. I'm done. And I just stopped watching TV after that.
SBS had some fucking quality shows. But the thing that really got me though, the thing that really, really got me about the mainstream media was just how cringy liberal the mainstream media of even our state-run programs have gotten. It really is. Like, we can depend entirely on Australia's cultural zeitgeist being defined by the 7 p.m. project.
Well, the project.
Oh,
God.
It's news delivered differently, guys. It's news delivered with a smile. It's news that's funny sometimes, but it's mostly just liberal garbage.
Liberal moral virtue signaling and obnoxious petite bourgeois posturing, but
Terrible. Like they'll do a report on homelessness and they're like, what can we do about this? And instead of saying getting rid of capitalism, they say call your local representative or donate to charity. Like, Jesus Christ.
Or, we could do one step better. Donate now. Donate now directly to the Stop the Homelessness campaign, in which the network takes a 20% commission fee on top of your donation. Or every single one of the people on the project and all of these shows. Like, what's that show in America that, like, the one for the American stay-at-home mum audience, the one with Whoopi Goldberg on it?
Oh, The View?
View.
That's the one. Like, of all fucking people, Whoopi Goldberg bagging the fuck out of Cortez. Like, what? Like, what timeline are we on? What world line is this, guys?
The reason behind this is that shows on TV only exist to bring in viewers so that the viewers will have advertisements shown to them. If your show starts to lose viewership, that means that there's less viewers watching ads. So then your show gets cancelled. So in order to keep the people watching The View, you got to look at your demographic, and if the demographic is like 90% right-leaning conservative, then you're going to start saying some weird shit on your show, saying like, "Oh, maybe we should build the border wall just so you can keep your viewership up." That's why you get Whoopi Goldberg bagging out Cortez.
Do you know who's worse than Whoopi Goldberg? John Oliver. The man's a parasite. I'm sorry, he is. I
Why? Why?
Have you seen his reporting on Venezuela? It's
yes, I have seen his reports in Venezuela, and I also remember watching some guy's really good video response. And it was really fucking cool. I don't really remember. Yeah, he fucked up multiple times. I just see there's so much hate around John Oliver, and I watched him a long time ago. I don't watch them at all really anymore. but it's so much hate around him, like even before Venezuela, from both the left and the right, which I love. Like only the left liberals love him.
I mean, seriously, like I know this is me changing the topic suddenly. Maybe this is a little bit of a self-plug in one way, but is anyone else kind of really depressed that Corbyn grad isn't a thing?
Yes. Yes.
Oh my god! I stayed up to watch the debate, and I was sort of, did you guys hear Theresa May talk? Did you hear her defense?
There was a debate between Corbyn and May?
Yes, in the House.
Oh God!
It was a question time or something.
It was a debate over a vote of no confidence, and
oh boy,
my
did
God.
the vote go down?
Okay, the vote went down, and the Conservatives won. Get this,
Fuck.
they won by 10 votes.
Oh,
Fuck.
That's not good for them.
Some of the Tories voted for the vote of no confidence, and
Whoa.
There's also the Blairites as well, which sided against Corbyn.
Yeah, of course, because the Blairites are fucking cancers.
Yeah.
But it's just the thing that got me about it was it shows just that the country, like the UK's political system, is just fucked. Like it's just absolutely fucked. Like we are seeing the final collapse of the British Empire. It is finally here. Like the empire itself has broken up, and all the Commonwealth countries have gotten their independence. Or
we're trying to get away from the collapse we could see coming.
Yeah,
in the UK.
and now the homeland, the empire itself, is finally starting to come apart at the seams.
Are you sure, though? Are you sure? Is it that bad, or is it just the neoliberal hell will perpetuate itself? Because I'm not really sure.
I think a lot of people are thinking that if May is still in power when the Brexit cutoff date happens, then it'll be total chaos. I was about to say anarchy, but no, total chaos. Because there's the
no deal. They will basically get the no deal Brexit, and they will all fall fucking apart.
Oh, did you guys see the IRA did a fucking car bombing in Northern Ireland today?
What?
What?
They did. They did a fucking car bombing, and they called the police and were like, "Well, they say it's the IRA." Ugh.
Actually, it's just the battery went bad. Okay.
No, it wasn't actual car bombing. There was a bomb, but apparently the person who was doing it called the police station about half an hour before it happened and said, "Evacuate this building. We're about to bomb it." And then the car bomb went off in Northern Ireland.
The Northern Irish Police report suspected car bomb in Londonderry.
Oh my fucking God!
Reported a suspected car bombing in Londonderry on Saturday that local politicians said had caused no apparent injuries as people were urged to stay away from the area. All right. And then, it just goes on the talk. Where is it? The new IRA was behind the last such fatal attack when in 2016 it was something about it. I'm trying to find where it says the stuff about the IRA though.
We're back.
No. Jesus. But yeah, won't a no deal Brexit cause a ton of shit on the Ireland and Northern Ireland border?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, it will.
Yes.
It will be a happening.
We could see it could end up in a weird way with fucking Northern Ireland rejoining the Republic for economic reasons. I mean that is a possibility.
Celtic Union when? Scotland and Ireland together when?
Well,
Wales, maybe also.
You wouldn't believe it, guys, but during the debate on the floor last night, the Scots waded in and they asked for assurances should a no-deal Brexit occur. They asked for assurances for a second independence referendum to be held.
Hey.
We could see the United Kingdom split apart and 3 independent states form. I mean, it's very unlikely, I think, but
I've heard weird things about London wanting to secede from the Union to remain in the EU, and I thought, like, wait, how about you just like didn't vote for Brexit in the beginning? If you want to remain so bad, you're willing to split the fucking state. Oh my fucking god!
It's ridiculous.
On a very on a much more depressing note, British austerity has gotten to the point where people are dying, like the elderly are dying of anorexia in their homes.
Yeah,
it's
fucked. It's fucked. Like the leadership of the Tory party and the UK government has blood on their hands because their shitty running of the economy has meant that people have died in nursing homes. It means that they're trying to make disabled people work when they shouldn't be working, and they've died on the job. And if they try to go into a no-deal Brexit or somehow still try to negotiate a Brexit, it's going to be, as Lord Buckethead himself said, it's going to be a fucking shit show. And it is a fucking shit show. You best start believing in revolutions, my friend, because you're in one. That's what it's going to take to save the UK.
Hot take. Maybe the revolutionary potential of our countries is being helped by the fact that the elderly are dying in nursing homes. Because seriously, boomers are ruining the world right now. Seriously, that's a hot take. But in all seriousness, in my workplace day to day, like the words "I'm a pensioner" followed by some racist tirade justifies pretty much anything. They use it to justify pretty much anything. I know this is like a really hot take,
because working class is often reactionary, and if the older generation is also reactionary, and unfortunately, we're not here to change that. Directly. We're not really in charge of that. The only way we can really work with that is by providing legitimate solutions to the issues that are at hand. And yes, there are racists all the time, everywhere, but when we see crazy neoliberal policies put in place, and Labour Party partially supporting it, just to stay electable, I think this is sort of, speaks to a deeper issue than like racist pensioners, because those racist pensioners could be racist in a place where they don't die, and I think that will be great. And it's completely in our, the left's reasonable. How do I say that? It's a reachable goal to actually work as a mass movement. Work on a higher level, on a higher scale, to actually discuss those issues and expose the fucking both parties, as well as in Australia, by the way, expose them as lying bastards that are there to get elected and not to actually work, to actually do their job and like help represent the people and run the fucking state properly,
Well, here's the funniest thing. The reason why I brought the boomers up, though, is I did a little bit of an experiment while watching the referendum debate between, the vote of no confidence debate between Corbyn and May. And my friend Andy and I were looking at the statistics. Jeremy Corbyn has only got an approval rating of 39%, and he has got like an 11% or something neutral, but like 51 or whatever percent against him, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we checked the demography of everybody surveyed. Of all of the UK's politicians, Corbyn was ranked first among the millennials. That's not a surprise. Yeah. Okay, that's not a surprise. Corbyn was ranked. Now here's more surprising: first amongst Gen X.
Okay, that's
Corbyn
weird.
was ranked first amongst Gen Y.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Corbyn was ranked last in the boomers.
Of course he is.
No, but that's the thing. Literally, every other category of people loves Corbyn and his policies, and even though he is a fucking sock dem, it was the same with Bernie. Literally, the entire country, basically, almost in terms of demographic, loves the guy, love the progressive policies, but yet the most active voter bases in voluntary election places are all the older generations, and they all fucking hate him. Why? Because he's going to take their money, and they don't want to help those filthy homeless people and those ruffians who spend all their time on welfare. Oh, no.
It's ridiculous. Like, I hate how it's to the point where they don't understand how time works. Like in America, they were saying, like, should we elect more millennials to the Senate? And I'm like, that's gonna be the only option in a few years. Do you not know how time works?
Oh God.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
that's condition, in my opinion. It's one of the it's a postmodern condition. Complete misunderstanding of what time is and how it works, and how it's supposed to work in all spheres, including like what you said, including culture, including economy, where basically the neoclassical economics, current capitalist economics, work only if you don't include time, right? Because if you include time and things changing over time, you are unable to make any predictions because of how varied the results could be if you include fucking time passing by, which I think is essential in the existence of humans and our systems, that like things change over time.
I think
it's possible. Postmodern condition doesn't allow, unfortunately.
A weird sort of way to look at it is that there's the Oscars not being able to find anyone who isn't a misogynist or a sexist to host the Oscars is the same thing that's happening with politicians, in that there's going to be a point where no politician doesn't have an embarrassing photo of themselves online, or it's like every candidate will have said some abhorrent thing on Twitter, and we can dig it up to discredit them during the campaign. There's going to be a point where that happens, and a lot of people don't understand that. Because of this whole, like, time exists and technology changes and whatnot.
The problem I have with this sort of thing is, I know it sounds terrible. It sounds like a really sort of apologia thing to say, but I'll be bluntly honest. Everybody in this chat right now, at some stage, has said or done something abhorrently terrible to someone or something. Okay? All of us have. Every human being does at some point. But now in the age of media polarization, social media and all that shit, anything, no matter how small, that compromises your character that can be made public will be made public, and it will destroy any hope. So the only people you get are people manufactured from day dot to take power. We're seeing sort of a social media monarchy, if you like. It's kind of fucking weird. But
I will say though,
yes.
I will say though, even though it's anecdotal, a lot of my friends have in the past said these important things, and I've asked them, like, do you still believe that? The ones that lean to the left, or the ones that are total comrades, are like, I've learnt so much from that, and I regret so much that I've said it, and I've deconstructed these views and see how, like, problematic they are, and I've become a better person because of it. But the people that lean to the right and vote Liberal Party are like, they're like, either I don't remember or I still stand by that. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, I hate using it, but the phrase, but they need to grow up. They need to advance and change and change their views based on what's observed. And they don't. Yet all of my leftist friends do.
To be honest,
their observation is colored. It's like they're looking at a tinted screen. Only by removing the tint can you see things, and even then, you understand what I'm saying? It's kind of like
this is going to get every single tanky and hardline anarchist in the chat to want to kill me. But this is why I fucking despise the term revisionist so much. I don't like it. If your ideology, if your material analysis can't change because of some preconceived notion written by some dead person, like, the fuck are you doing? Like, and this is why I don't like the term revisionist, because changing material conditions change the approach and change the analysis. Therefore, we have to adapt our approach to match without compromising our core principles. Our core principles being, that of socialism, everybody is equal. Everybody, to quote Mr. Rudd, get a fair shake of the sauce bottle. But in all seriousness, that's without compromising our core ideals. Everything else should be flexible in the means of achieving the goal. And this is why I don't like that. But here's another hot take. I think that the millennials are so pissed off and switching to it is because education, as insufferable as university liberals and the fucking rich, white, upper middle class teenagers who look smugly in people's faces, mocking indigenous people. Fuck! Sorry. I don't know if you guys saw that today.
I have seen that today. It was fucking so annoying.
What's happening?
So, like,
what's going on?
People from some Catholic universities showed up in Washington to counter-protest the Native Americans.
Oh, those fucking cunts! Oh, those.
I remember that, and they were standing in
wasn't-
MAGA hats, like
Yeah.
smiling, and they were basically trying to intimidate them. I've seen very great comparisons to
Not only were they
how
university students, it was a school-sponsored excursion.
For fuck's sake.
And now some liberals are proposing that, let's how about the school now makes a trip to the segregation and do some charity work for the segregation. And they're like, what are you fucking talking about? I think I've seen Lindsay Ellis comment on that by saying on Twitter this today by saying how about we get the people who harass Native Americans and take them to their homes, because that will help to bring the bigots to where the Native Americans are. What the fuck? And it's really fucking annoying. And I've seen great comparisons to anti-segregation harassment, pro-segregation at the time of the civil rights movement, when white people were standing in an intimidating way around a black person who's sitting at the white, where the whites are supposed to sit, in bars and cafes and whatever. So, fucking hell.
No, it was just this particular person. I don't know if you've seen a photo of this guy, but this particular person was
it's so fucking punchable.
Yeah, it's the most punchable face I've ever fucking seen in my life.
Fucking shitting grin. Weren't they yelling at the Native Americans that they wanted to build a wall? Have I heard that right?
Well, I'm not sure what they were shouting. They were wearing MAGA hats, and just in this particular person was staring down the Native American person who's protesting and smiling in a very punchable way, trying to stare him down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically they were sort of counter-protesting them. And they were protesting for. I actually don't know what they're protesting. But there was a protest, Native American protest.
How crappy of a movement do you have to have when you have no base for yourself and all you're doing is just saying we're against that?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
This is what the right wing reaction. This is what reactionary was all about.
Fucking
we are against the left wing. That's it.
I just but this was my point. Despite all the evidence to the contrary given by that fucking shit-eating excuse for a human fucking being, excuse me, I am very angry about that. The thing is, I think that's really gonna ruffle a few feathers. Is I look at the biggest issues confronting us and why people are so pissed off and why the young voters especially are so pissed off is simple. There are millennials, that is 14, 15-year-olds, who are working and paying taxes who can't vote. You're paying taxes, but you can't vote.
No.
And the idea that this shit is like, I know this sounds like, but we can't give these children the ability to vote.
Then don't give them the ability to fucking contribute to the, like, let them don't pay taxes then.
Yeah.
Because
that's
I don't
the
know
whole
about
thing.
you guys.
Yeah.
But I fucking paid taxes when I worked at McDonald's during my time in high school. I paid fucking taxes, and could I vote?
No. You contributed to a thing you couldn't control. That's what I call theft. Taxes are theft. That's official. My position now.
Eugene's gone ANCAP, right? Kill a virgin.
He's gone full
ANCAP. Now before it's too late.
Theft.
Now.
Actually, it's called ephebophilia, and it was.
Oh no. Actually, jokes aside, I don't think that would be an incorrect assessment. Because I don't think you have access to, like, that's at least partially, could be considered theft when you don't have any democratic rights and you still have to pay taxes. That's extortion, I think.
You see, look. If you look at it,
you do benefit from public amenities, right? You do benefit from that. You do benefit from healthcare because you're covered. But what about other things like decision making in the state? Yeah. Like, we're talking democracy here, and bourgeois democracy may be inefficient and should change. But I'm not proposing to abolish it without providing something better. It's still a thing that exists, and like it's
I think the way to look at it is, you get taxed, and your tax goes to the government. And the government uses it to do what exactly? In Australia, it's Medicare, it's education, joining in bombing of Syria, roads as well, turning back asylum seekers from coming in on boats, towing them away.
Stop them boats.
Yeah, using that money to create, to basically give themselves raises.
We've not
mentioned
on
ABC.
Yeah, it allowed Fraser Anning. He used taxpayer money to go to a white nationalist, supremacist Nazi rally. He used our money to do that.
It's also who's taxed as well.
Exactly.
Not the bourgeoisie which get taxed.
No, it's the fucking working class of Australia who get reamed in the asshole by taxes, yet the corporations don't pay any tax.
I get a $600 bonus from work, and half of it gets taxed.
It's fucked.
And I'm just like, yo, I busted my ass for my capitalist masters so I could get a little extra money to fund the revolution, and so they tax me half of it.
Dude, that's nothing. I earn 1.4k for 2 weeks of work, and $400 of it goes to tax.
Jesus.
Oh, Christ, why? Oh, maybe because you're a student. That's probably...
Time to tell my funny story about taxes and employment and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So basically, I quit my job like I think a week or two ago, right? 2 weeks ago, and I think I had the most fun tax story, and they organized the whole thing in a very funny way. Basically, I was employed officially. I worked there full time, right? But I was employed officially so that I buy documents. I'm working there 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. So it is 0.25% employment. This is what, like, you could have 25%, 50%, and 75%, 100%. And you either work 2, 4, 6, or 8 hours a day. We have those employments available for people, right? And I officially worked 2 hours a day because they would pay less taxes on that. Also, in my, I worked basically as a marketing guy and management guy, right? Like low to middle management, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but in my official documents, my position was listed as an operator of computer graphics, I think. Because I believe that by their documents, it would be easier for them to pay less taxes on me. Because if you have employees, you must pay taxes. That's the thing. In our country, the employer pays taxes for you. You don't do taxes, right? And so deduct it from your income. And it's really, and what they really want to do is that decrease that number as much as possible. And then what was funny is when my boss was going around the office asking me and my colleagues, do we have a registered, basically LLC? I'm not sure how it all works in the different states, but in here you can register as a sole proprietor, right? And basically pay a set tax every year, right? And pay your income tax, and you become a corporation, basically, one-man corporation, right? And he was going around asking whether someone has it, right? Because he wanted to fire us all and make us employees of that corporation registered for a person, so that he would sign an agreement between corporations, right? Not between an employee and an employee, but corporation and corporation, so that he wouldn't have to pay taxes on employment.
Oh, Jesus.
And I was like, man, what the fuck?
That is so fucked.
How about you spend more time running the place, right, and working, and not finding ways to avoid paying taxes? Well, it's fucking insane, and the taxes.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah,
I think shit like that probably goes down more than just it happening to you as well. Because you have casualization of work in Australia is rampant, and it's a similar thing where if we hire you as this, right, then we have to pay you lots of money. But if we change your job description and the job title, then we can pay you less, but we're still going to get you to do this other job. It's fucked.
That's similar here. I don't think we have to pay you more thing, right? Or job description thing, because job descriptions are usually either made by the companies themselves or by the union, and membership in the union literally does nothing to you at all. Except for like 3 unions that exist in other cities. Like for example, Belarus has 1 union, I believe. That's like good, which is a union, and it literally unionized 1 workplace, and that's it. But it's a big one. It's SolidWorks mines. We have salt mines in the city of SolidWorks, and in the 90s they organized the union there. And I believe 90% of the workplace, or 90 to 100% of workplace, is unionized by an independent union that is that bargained for doubling of the salaries and protection of healthcare of miners. And they did a lot of good work. They even did a march from Soligorsk on Minsk to demand the government to allow them to do the union shit, and they succeeded.
Nice.
It was very early 90s when Belarusian politics were rather, active. Not like today. But this union is still there. That's the only fucking union there is here. The only union.
I think in Australia, it's a little easier to say to your boss, like, you can't ask me to do this task because it's outside of my job description. A lot of the time.
God, I'm so fucking jealous.
Yeah.
No, we can't do that, or at least I can't.
Yeah, like
Guys, I've got to head off.
if you say
Alrighty, Liam.
if you,
See you, Liam.
Oh, okay.
headed off?
Bye-bye.
Yeah,
sorry about
I
that, guys.
catch you, man. I think
All right, I'll see you guys later.
we're at about 110 minutes. We're about an hour and 10 minutes. Perhaps that's a good point to wrap up.
I think Liam and Batco and all that are starting up D&D. So
Yeah, which means I got to go as
okay.
well. Then
yeah, because TK's got to go and be a luchador, smash some trolls over the head.
I actually play there as well, and I also play in the same thingy.
yeah. So
yeah,
you and I, Eugene, have got to get ready for D&D.
Yeah, and I have a Dragonborn Paladin character who's with a giant scimitar. So we have to smash some hags by now.
I don't know if I got invited for this one. I think I did, but I should probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, finish your point. Finish your point with the unions and job descriptions. So,
Okay.
is it actually possible in Australia, like, to say "nah, mate," or is it not possible?
You
Is
can
it
say to your boss, like, look, I'd prefer not to do that because it's outside of my job description. Depending on what it is, it will still always cause a shit fight. Because the boss might be like, oh no, there's a spill. Quick, you should clean that up. If you say like, oh, I'm a IT guy, that's out of my job description. Isn't there like a cleaner? You come off to the boss as like lazy, and they'll be like, all right, maybe we're gonna start reducing your hours. And then you say, oh well, you can't do that. I'm union, blah blah blah. And it just starts to get, it just kicks off, calling in the delegate. Talking to the boss, this and that. And, yep. What's better
I
to
had
do?
to carry giant fucking tables, and
Yeah.
I was the operator of computer graphics.
Yeah.
Whatever that
So if you're in one department, right?
graphics.
So let's say you're in a factory and you're a qualified electrician, right?
Sex offender. Oh, okay.
A qualified electrician, and the boss or the foreman says, "Oh, quick, can you just do some welding on this thing?" That's where you can outright go, "No, I can't. I'm an electrician. You hired me as an electrician. You cannot make me do welding."
Yeah.
Mainly because of OH&S, but also because an electrician isn't trained in welding.
I agree, but carrying shit and heavy shit that I wasn't hired to do, I was like, no, mate, I'm not going to come an hour earlier so that I could move somebody else's fucking tables.
Yes, exactly.
But I still had to do it because if I didn't, I would be fired. Or my salary would be deducted, because...
Well, here's the thing, though. Like, I am on the cusp. Well, actually, next week I get the paperwork finished to become the union delegate in my workplace, which is cool.
Good job, mate.
The only problem is that puts like a gigantic target on my back, which is going to be fun. But the thing is, in response to that, I have made it so, and I know this sounds counterintuitive, but I swear it's true. Because of Australia's labour laws and labour relations, how if you are active in the union and an activist in the union and you get fired, you can make like a strong unless you've done something like really catastrophically bad, you can make a strong case to the Fair Work Commission that you were fired because they used it as an excuse to fire you because you're in the union.
Yeah.
I've done the opposite thing where literally on my email at work, I have my union affiliation and union number. My union number. And I've
sneaky bastard.
I've like stood up in front of everybody and openly, like I have openly met in front of senior management. I have sat with our union rep in the lunchroom and talked with the clipboards out and shit like that. So it's like if they
so then we go on and take over the offices, right? Oh, hello, Mr. Johnson, how's it going? The game, the game that we had that happened last night or something, right?
Yeah.
Fucking how can you fuck up that bad? Oh my god!
That's the thing.
So fired if I ever did anything like that. Oh my god!
That's the thing. Like, I actually had the manager of my team, at work, walk out and see me and a couple of other union people sitting around, like discussing organization stuff and upcoming meetings and that. And the manager of my team's like, my manager of the team came out. I was like, "Oh, it's the union meeting." I'm like, "Hi, boss. How's it going?"
Jesus Christ.
It's gotten to the point now where I will come out to you guys. I have actually started attending disciplinary meetings for other employees at the workplace and sitting in as an observer.
Good.
Which has only for people in my team at this point, but because the problem is with delegates is because they are trained and representatives technically for the Fair Work Commission and the union and stuff like that. The workplace has to be notified about who they are.
Oh God!
Which means that once my delegate stuff goes through, that they'll be like, okay, it's official. Pac-Man is now the union delegate for your center. And so when the actual union rep isn't around, if you want to talk to the union, the person you talk to is him. And I'm not an employee of the union. I'm an employee of the company.
You'll do fine, man. You got
This is weird. This is fucking. You're not employed by the union, but by the company, and you're the union representative. It's risky as fuck, but it's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm doing it not because I want to get fired. Well, I probably will as soon as they'll probably start hunting me down. But I've tried to make it so obvious that I am the union agitator, and my sales performance is so good that
Yeah, you make it so that they absolutely need you,
no,
and that they can't get rid of you.
No, it's not. Nobody needs anyone. It's just that they need a good reason. They need a reason to fire people. They don't need a reason to keep them.
You got a point there, yeah.
Yeah, but it will be like, okay, so this guy screwed up on procedure here because of this, and this. He hasn't made a serious mistake in like 6 months, yada yada yada, all that shit. Yet you fired him. And he just so happens to be the union delegate. Fair work, and then the company in those situations, all right, look, we'll give you a year and a half's pay, just fuck off. And I'll be like, okay,
yeah,
I'll do that. Get references from the people I like at the place, then apply for another call center, and then unionize that one.
It repeats.
Oh my God, this is great. This is great. First of all, congratulations on your advancements. I am at the same time very jealous and very proud of what you're doing. Good job, mate. Second of all, I wanted to ask, when you become a union representative, do you instantly grow fat, have a cap, have a New York accent, and get a New York accent and a vest? Part of the union representation.
I get a National Union of Workers snapback and beanie. I'm already fat. And
now you're beautiful. That's what you are.
Your face? Does it grow like square, like Big Bull, like Haywood? Does it become square?
No,
what you got to do. What he's basically saying is, when you become the delegate, you got to get yourself a huge cigar. You got to get yourself the hat, the big coat. You walk around. Hey guys, you ever heard of the fucking union? You want to join up with the union? Everybody here want to join up for the union?
Yeah.
And then the boss comes in and it's like, you better not fuck around with these fucking workers. I'm the fucking union right here, motherfucker. It's like, pack.
Yeah, basically that's what happens.
Calm down.
That's what's to happen when you become a union representative.
What I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna have a shirt made.
You just can't go to Italian pizzerias anymore because you'll just have a panic attack every time you hear an Italian accent.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite memes I ever saw, and it was hung up in my union's office actually.
Right.
Was a picture of they say if you make 1,000 paper cranes, your wish would come true. And instead of making the bird, the kid accidentally made actual cranes. And then, normally, the great wizard or the great mistress in the kimono will appear and she will grant you a wish or whatever. But in this, some fucking union guy in high vis, a ghost of the past, appears because of all these industrial cranes. There, it's like, I'm here to make a wish. You in the union, kid? No scabs.
No
Disappears.
scabs.
Disappears. It's just like, but in all
No fucking
seriousness,
scabs.
no. In all seriousness, like, I've been starting to represent people, or like, if not represent, like, sit with people in their formal meetings and help them write responses for management and shit like that.
That's good.
Nice.
That's good. That's
Um,
practice.
yeah,
That's what that is.
And you know, like, I've been sitting in, like, and representing people and sort of been like, you know, I've talked about the union, like, and it was quite open. It was quite openly said to us by a person who's since left the company because they were shit, but he was a useful source of information. Who brought it up, like, that it's pretty obvious that I don't think we have spies, but they are keeping tabs on the union because their union membership has come up in management meetings now. Like, before, it was just like 10 people, and they were like, "Oh, it's just the union conning people into being into this group. There's nothing to be concerned about."
Yeah.
Our union membership has reached 25% of the workplace.
25?
25%. Yep, a quarter of everyone in the office is in.
Oh god.
And the management is now worried because, like, funnily enough, our union rep came the other day, and we were having a union meeting. This is when my manager came in. We were having a union meeting in the office. We only found out afterwards, and our union rep was like, I found out why your HR manager was looking so nervous when I showed up today, because we were all having this union meeting, and it's casual day that day, so I naturally have my red shirt on with Comrades, so it's got a picture of, like, Mao, Che, and that all having a milkshake together. So we've got the union guy and a guy wearing communist propaganda having a meeting in the lunchroom, and it's like, would you believe it? The CEO of my company walked past us.
Oh no.
Jesus. All right, I think on that
Oh,
note,
nothing happening here.
I think
Yeah,
on that note,
no.
we're gonna have to wrap up.
It was
Oh
hilarious.
god.
We basically T-posed the boss.
T-post T-post assert dominance. Oh, I love it.
Oh my god. It's such an amazing way to end this stream. I love the stories. I'm waiting for more stories from your union work. Pac-Man, that's amazing.
Perhaps
I'll
next
go into a huge story about when I get fired.
Okay.
next week we could talk about union stories, I reckon. So yes, that was An Evening with Comrades. I want to thank Positus Pac-Man, the Red Mushroom, Eugene, Big Guy, Liam, Dip Dap, and everyone in the chat. Thank you for coming along. Please make sure that you like and subscribe and hit the bell button to stay up to date with everything Eastern Marshlands. And check us out on Twitter. You can go at EML Eugene. All the links. The links are down below in the description.
We're all on Twitter.
It's fucking amazing. Check it out.
Everyone here is on Twitter. Okay,
Thank you all, and good night.
Solidarity
Forever.
forever.
Solidarity